Today, we're going to start our new unit on ratios. Ratio. A ratio is a comparison between two or more numbers. It is used to indicate how big or small a quantity is when compared to another. Take a look at the example being shown. 2 triangles to every 3 circles. Now, ratios can be represented in a multiple number of ways. First, if we have the scenario over here, 3 pencils to 5 pens, you can write that comparison in colon form, 3 to 5, in word form, 3 to 5, and in fraction form, 3 to 5. Now, it's important to understand, though, when you represent a ratio as a fraction, it's not actually a fraction, it's just in fraction form. It's still comparing 2 different quantities. So using ratio language, there are many different ways to describe relationships of quantities. So take a look at the example where we have 2 apples and 3 bananas. Now we could compare the quantities a few different ways. You could say it as the ratio of apples to bananas is 2 to 3. The ratio of bananas to apples is 3 to 2. We could also say this as for every 3 bananas, there are 2 apples. For every 2 apples, there are 3 bananas. Or we could say out of 5 total pieces of fruit, there are 2 apples. These are just some examples when we're looking at the quantity of apples to bananas for this particular situation. We have 2 different types of ratios. The first type of ratio we're going to talk about is part to part. So take a look at the previous example where we have 2 apples and 3 bananas. So those 2 parts make up the ratio. We have the ratio of apples to bananas is 2 to 3. The ratio of bananas to apples is 3 to 2. The order in which you write your ratio matters. So if you take a look at the first example over here, apples to bananas, notice how apples is stated first and then bananas. So the quantity of apples, I'm going to write that first, followed by the quantity of bananas. The second example over here, notice how we have bananas listed first, followed by apples. Therefore, we want to make sure the quantity of bananas is listed first and then the quantity of apples. So the order in which you write your ratio matters. Don't forget that. The second type of ratio we have is a part to whole ratio. So if we look at the 2 apples and 3 bananas, altogether we have 5 total pieces of fruit. So if we're comparing part to whole, we could say the ratio of apples to total pieces of fruit is 2 to 5. If we're comparing bananas to total pieces of fruit, then we will state that as it's a 3 to 5 ratio. So this concludes our introduction of ratios for today. Let's get started on some examples as a class.